Some are pregnant, some have young children at home, others are elderly or suffer from autoimmune diseases or take steroid treatment. I want to protect them. Together, we can protect them. Please stay at home for us.
The International University of Management, a Namibian university dedicated to its people's future, a hub of abundant opportunities.
We are IUM for life. We are IUM.
Good evening and welcome to Today on One. I'm Maggie Forciero. In the news tonight, of a Herero and Nama genocide 117 years later, local schools honoured with certificates of appreciation, Nampool and Foot Law Group discuss traffic law, GIZ startup and women in agriculture collaborate on agribusiness bootcamp, and Roundup, Business on One, Comments Corner, Sports and the weather. The Ovaherero and Ovambanderu Genocide Foundation held a commemorative ceremony to mark 117 years since General Lothar von Trotha issued the infamous extermination order that led to the 1904-1908 Ovaherero and Nama genocide.
The descendants of the victims of the 1904 to 1908 genocide gathered at the Independence Memorial Museum, which is located next to the old German fortress that was used as a concentration camp to commemorate 117 years since the extermination order that saw hundreds of thousands of their ancestors brutally murdered by German soldiers. Chief Kambadembe of the Kambadembe Royal House spoke at the occasion about the contentious reparations agreement in which the former colonial authority offered to pay the Namibian government 18 billion Namibian dollars in aid over 30 years.
We know that the German government want to escape. They came with tactics that the act of the ancestors then, in today's terms, could be termed as genocide. But those are just tactics. The act of those years remains genocide today. And all of us, Ovaherero, Ovambanderu, and Namas, are today united as never before. We are all behind German government to demand that, first of all, you agree that the action of your ancestors to ours is genocide. After you agree, you genuinely apologize. After apology, you pay reparation. These are very clear demands. We don't want to talk about agreement and aid for projects. That is not what we want. The two governments can discuss projects and aid, but from our side we say we want what is genuine to the brutality made to our ancestors. I think this message is clear. We don't care which government is in power in Germany, as long as it's Germans, they remain Germans. And they have to talk to us They have to come to their terms and accept and do what is expected from them by the whole world, because you must pay for your action or your ancestors' action.
The legacy of the 1904 to 1908 genocide committed by colonial German soldiers, according to Mbakumwa Hengari of the Ovaherero of Ambanderu Genocide Foundation, has produced the society that Namibia has today, which is plagued by poverty, land dispossession, and cultural erosion.
The timing is also perfect for us to try and force our collective memories back to some of the events that have defined the country that we know today as Namibia, being the genocide committed against the Nama people of Namibia and the Ovaherero and Ovambaderu people. That genocide created the society that we have today, a society laden with burden of poverty and impoverishment and dispossession of land, culture, and everything that you can imagine. A legacy that has left Namibia with vast tracts of land occupied by colonial descendants, with the majority of our people on the outskirts, on the periphery, in the Kalahari, in Botswana, in South Africa. A country left with a population that could have probably been around 6 or 7 million today, about half of which was lost through that genocide. So it is time that what is transpiring in the National Assembly gets connected to the realities of what transpired here in Namibia 117 years ago.
The event, which commemorated 117 years since Lotte von Trotter, a German military commander during the colonial era, issued an extermination order against the Ovaherero and Nama people, was also held to commemorate the 10th anniversary of the return of the actual skulls of Nama and Herero genocide victims from Germany to Namibia in 2011.
Enjoy these fantastic mid-month savings only at Clicks until 20 October. Buy Clicks 2-ply toilet paper 18 rolls, $89.99 per pack. Buy Pampers Premium Care Pants Value Pack, 2 for $214 per pack and 1 for $230.99. Or buy Vaseline body lotion or cream, 400 ml, 2 for $71. Clicks, feel good, pay less.
Get ready to enjoy Simba's sounds of flavor.
All the Simba flavors. Let's roll. Guys, smoke beef. Plenga finiga. Shaya chocolate. Shitty tomato. Ossa.
Together we roar because Simba roars with flavor.
Remember the mission, yeah, revisualize the vision, connected the journey, stir early, step 1, step 2, next step, restart at the beginning of what I'm feeling, the future we believe in, let's start dreaming, N-A-M-I-B-I-A, no matter what they say, we here to stay, so find believers just like you, hand in hand, this is what we do. More steps, yeah, we get through, let's go. Start again, you can. You connected to the world, yeah, we stand. Determined to move on hand in hand. Put the switch on, a new reform, let's rise. Together we rise. MTC, make the connection.
The 2021 World Teachers' Day celebrations were dedicated to teachers in special and inclusive education. The Teachers Union of Namibia, Public Service Union, together with the Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture, convened at the Dagbreek School that teaches learners who are intellectually impaired to celebrate the day.
Teaching kids with special needs is difficult, but the teachers have a passion for it, and if their hearts are not in the right place, it can be very devastating. These were the sentiments of the Dagbreek principal at the Teachers' Day celebration at the school. He stated that there are more challenges faced in special schools than in mainstream schools, but because they love their children, they do their level best to make sure that their children with special needs get the education they deserve.
Every principal and management member will agree with me that the pressure is high. And we have to take decisions, important decisions, that will influence the management, the school's future, projects, the lives of the children in our schools, etc. So to be mentally fit to cope is recently a challenge. People, even our senior teachers, I'm not even just talking about our junior teachers, I'm talking about senior teachers who are already geared and who are resilient and what? We struggle as well to cope under the circumstances. The workload on our end, but also with the effects of this sudden pandemic that we had to endure. So, in short, the weaknesses is also in us as human beings. Some days we are hard and strong, but even me and Mrs. Kraft is also crying some days. We feel alone. When we sit there at night and you still have to struggle around this challenge, how will you handle it? And most of the times, we go to bed without a solution. And tomorrow you're just in the fire and you shoot.
The Director of Education, Arts and Culture said that teachers in the resource schools need to be proud of what they do on a daily basis because their work is more harder than those in mainstream schools, thus urging teachers to seek professional assistance when the need arises because with the COVID-19 pandemic, many have lost loved ones.
A message of importance and of appreciation to our special needs teachers. It's not always that a word like a thank you is shared and where people can make eye contact with each other, appreciating work that others take for granted. I have always had a love for special needs education, but I only got to understand the intricacies when I became the ED of the Ministry of Education, and when I closely liaised and work with the school principals. That's only when I have a deeper sense of understanding about what it takes to be a special needs teacher. What does it mean to be a teacher who really unconditionally care and love and sacrifice? And sacrifice and love and sacrifice once more. We are also aware that since the start of the pandemic, many of our teachers at various platforms reported and made reference, just as Paul did, to increased workloads, true exhaustion, burnout, fear of death, and also fear of infections. And many of our teachers not only lost their lives. Those of us who are sitting here, we lost loved ones. We lost significant others. We've lost close friends, colleagues, children, family members. And in addition to that, ladies and gentlemen, there was also for the teachers increased home and care responsibilities. That we are fully aware of. I want to appeal to all our teachers sitting here in the interest of your mental health. If there is a need to speak to somebody neutral, somebody trained, objective, please do ensure that you see, when needed, a psychologist. There is no shame in seeing a psychologist. There is no shame in investing in your mental health, in our mental health. There is no shame to receive support and guidance and specific coping mechanisms. And our medical aid makes provision for that.
The schools were honored with certificates of appreciation written with messages of encouragement. Steenkamp further noted that the teachers in these schools should continue with their passion of working with their children, as many take them for granted.
Full of cheers. Tafolaga, Namibian like you.
A group of LLB final year law students from the University of Namibia believes many road users don't fully understand what to do after a traffic law enforcer pulls them over. They have therefore launched a project aimed at clearing the misconceptions of traffic rules and regulations.
Traffic law, according to the group, is complex. Hence, they've decided to create a platform where road users can get information about road rules and regulations.
We were asked to identify an issue in our law that we wanted to educate the public on. A day after receiving the task, I found myself in an instance where I was pulled over by a traffic officer, and I realized at that moment that I had no idea what powers and functions that traffic officer had over my vehicle and vice versa. It hit me also that in terms of procedure, I didn't know what would happen next, and it is when we came up with the idea to identify general misconceptions that happens in terms of procedure.
The group also shared some advice on how road users can correctly exercise their rights during an encounter with a traffic officer.
When being stopped by a traffic officer for a speed trap, you as the general public or the driver of the vehicle have the right to actually ask the traffic officer to show you his certificate of appointment, which is a certificate authorizing him to actually stop you and conduct speed traps. Thereafter, you are allowed to look at the calibration certificate of the device that was used to actually trap you, or the speed trap camera, and thereafter you can also ask for his operator's training certificate, which authorizes him to actually operate the device used to conduct the speed trap.
Today on One spoke to Chief Inspector Rosario Kutia from Nampol's Traffic Department to confirm the information provided by the Food Group third-year law students. The response was intriguing.
Section 11 of the Road Traffic and Transport Act was amended on the 24th of October 2008, Government Gazette number 4147, as reference, as to we don't have to show you an appointment certificate. And that does not nullify our work when we operate. So when being stopped by a traffic officer, let's say for speed, like the specific clip that went around, the gentleman asked for a collaboration certificate. There's no such a thing as a collaboration certificate. We call it a calibration certificate, and you are fortunate that I am one of the trainers when it comes to the speed equipment or the various types of speed equipment we have. So we train our members to have these documents with them, but it's not a must.
Kutsi advises road users to comply with traffic officers, as failure to do so can't count as an offense.
Don't argue with any officer on the road. Go and argue with him in a court of law. There is where you can state your facts. Because at the end of the day, what will happen? By you saying, I will not, it's already an offense, because then you are failing to comply with an instruction given by a traffic officer, license inspector, vehicle examiner. Even if I want to test your vehicle for roadworthiness and you tell me, no sir, you will not drive my car, it's already an offense in terms of the Road Traffic and Transport Act.
According to Kutsia, most road users tend to argue with traffic officers, which intensifies matters. In an event where an individual would like to contest a speeding ticket, he says such an individual can go to a competent court.
Agribusiness Bootcamp, a first of its kind by Women in Agriculture Namibia and Startup Namibia, aims to identify entrepreneurs or potential entrepreneurs who have innovative ideas for new services or new products in agriculture.
The bootcamp intends to support these entrepreneurs during their early stages of business through training on digital skills, business skills and urban farming. The two organizations who put together the bootcamp plan to extend it across the country and reach out to the wider masses.
Bootcamp is intended for new entrepreneurs in agribusiness or potential new entrepreneurs. And what we are looking for is innovative minds who have an idea of something that is new, either a very new product, a very new service in the market, with potential to scale by selling the service or the product online. So it's really targeted at this kind of people. So either startups who would like to do something for farmers, or farmers who would like to have something innovative to bring to the market and learn how entrepreneurial skills, digital skills can help them promote their service and sell the service and build a better service.
We're looking for participants that have really innovative and great business or agribusinesses projects or ideas. So this was really established, or it came with the notion of agribusiness should be looked as an entrepreneurial skill. So we need to start looking at farming or agriculture as a business and not just a way of living. So that is why we came up with training people on the entrepreneurial skills of agribusiness. How do you market your agribusiness produce or your produce that you produce on your farm? How do you get a market for that? How do you set your prices for that? And then with the bootcamp, we are also trying to focus on hydroponics and urban farming. That also was initiated because we now see that a lot of youth or women farmers, access to land is a challenge for them, and urban farming and hydroponics will be a much better solution to get out of the land crisis.
Participants for the bootcamp are expected to pitch their agribusiness ideas on the 12th of October 2021 and will thoroughly complete their training by the 14th of October 2021. Upon graduation, they will be issued with certificates of participation.
One of the main things I've learned in this bootcamp was really how to market my product, because that was something that was really keeping me up. I was wondering how I'm going to go about it, what tools am I going to use, and what I was taught in this bootcamp is really going to help me go to my customers, how I'm going to approach them, what tools I'm going to use, because they gave us a lot of ideas how to make pamphlets, what websites to use, even if you don't really have a lot of funding, free websites. So it's things that really I could have really have used if I'd known about it before, and they really opened my eyes when it comes to that.
And I really like to encourage a lot of young women in Namibia to start attending the bootcamp, because you are gaining more information about it, and it's like you are getting it for free and you are getting more knowledge about it.
With this program, I've learned more about hydroponics and aquaponics. I'm also an entrepreneur with growing microgreens using hydroponics, but I had less information. But with this bootcamp, I've learned a lot about hydroponics as well as aquaponics, which I can use in my business.
I'm currently attending the Startup Namibia bootcamp for young agripreneurs, emerging agripreneurs, and this bootcamp has been such a good experience. First and foremost, the most important thing that I've learned is the importance of having accounting in your business, knowing digital marketing applications, how to capture your audience, how to sell your product. And yeah, no, it's been a really, really good experience.
The bootcamp, which started on the 27th of September, is expected to end next week, Thursday, the 14th of October, 2021.
We can't wait to welcome new friends. But until then, let's stay safe.
In other leading stories, in its weekly newsletter, the Namibia Agricultural Union notes that after almost a decade of knocking on government doors to rescue the vulnerable dairy sector, the government has expressed willingness to intervene. Agriculture Minister Kali Schlettwein, in his response to questions in the National Assembly last week, acknowledged that the local dairy industry requires urgent intervention by the government to save it from total collapse. Minister Schlettwein indicated that restrictions on imported dairy products, which could be implemented through the Import and Export Control Act administered by the Minister of Industrialization and Trade, seemed to be the only viable measure that could be implemented in the short term to rescue the ailing industry. The earlier considered option to provide a government subsidy of $2 Namibia per litre of raw milk to ensure a level playing field for farmers proved to be unfeasible due to financial constraints and is no longer an option, as an annual amount of about 40 million Namibia dollars would be required for this purpose. It is envisaged that an immediate restriction on imported dairy products could not only provide the urgent relief required by the sector, but also safeguard against unfair competition, improve production, and develop the value chain and downstream value addition. In his response, the minister further indicated that relevant ministries, agencies, and officers will be consulted to identify and address all implications of this proposed measure with a view to assure the nation and the dairy industry that all due processes will be followed before any implementation of import restrictions. Furthermore, the minister indicated that the industry and its subsequent value chain is included in the Harambee Prosperity Plan's comprehensive agricultural development program as an important pillar which can contribute to the socio-economic well-being of Namibians, enhance household food security and nutrition, and create more employment. In light of this, the sector is deemed very important to the Namibian government and specifically the agricultural sector. Following these announcements by Minister Kali Schlettwein in the National Assembly, the industry can finally experience a sigh of relief. However, the intention to protect the local industry still needs to be put into practice, and until such time, the industry will continue to shed jobs, lose farmers, further reduce milk production, and continue to sell dairy cattle herds. It is therefore critical that the government with immediate effect commence with the consultation processes and preparatory work required to enable the introduction of the envisaged safeguard measures needed to retain and rebuild the collapsing local dairy sector.
We can't wait to get the whole gang together. But until then, let's stay safe.
Dink jy sy het nog steeds abandonment issues?
Is moontlik.
Al ons moeite met die sprokies. Ek probeer so hard om my kind gelukkig te maak, maar ek kry dit nie reg nie.
Probeer net help, dis al.
Jy doen niks sonder bymotiewe nie.
So jy hou van die tattoo?
Nee. Maar jy kan nie liefde koop nie. En beslis nie myne nie.
Jy regular.
Am I that predictable?
Jy is 'n gereelde klant en ons net so 'n manier om koffie te drink.
How do you like your coffee?
Gewoonlik swart sonder suiker.
Does black and bitter only pertain to your coffee preference?
Ek hou maar net van my koffie sonder melk. Hoe gaan dit op bal raak slaan na 2 glase wyn?
That was part of my plan.
Wat? Om 'n tipsie te maak sodat jy kan wen.
I'm terrible at pata.
And tonight on Business on One, at a recent media engagement event in Windhoek, the Namibia Revenue Agency NAMRA revealed that they will collect taxes from the informal sectors. NAMRA argues that the informal sector is a significant contributor to Namibia's GDP, noting that if not taxed, the government will lose a significant amount of revenue.
So the informal sector is a major contributor to our GDP. Left untaxed means government would forfeit so much revenue that can be collected from this. In fact, the revenue is so high that in most of the cases it goes undetected. So yes, NAMRA is going to tax the informal sector. The law as it stands provides for thresholds. If you make this amount of money, you are liable for taxation. If you run a business, there are deductions and exemptions, and so it goes.
According to NAMRA's Commissioner, Sam Shivute, there is a big problem with those acquiring good standing certificates while owing state taxes.
Corruption. We will not condone corruption, and also what are we going to do with regard to those who are currently getting good standing certificate? Yes, we are not going to condone corruption. That's why you will see that we have a department that will deal with internal affairs. We also have police officers seconded to Namibia Revenue Agency, but we're going to also develop capacity with regard to investigation, be it custom violation, criminal cases related to customs or to domestic taxes as well. And what is going to happen is that, let's briefly talk about those good standing certificate. The current arrangement that has been in place, I think from my understanding, the current arrangement have been that if you are owing, if you then want a good standing certificate, there is a percentage of an amount that you need to pay. I think it's 20%. When you then make this payment and you put in a payment arrangement, you then get a good standing certificate so that you will be able to tender. That is the reason sometimes why when you can see someone who may be owing and the person is getting a good standing certificate.
NAMRA's head of domestic taxes stated that those who owe the state are required to pay, and failing to do so will result in their assets being taken.
The first one is that of revenue, where you are not compliant because you owe money. Now, that's the critical one. So we'll tell you, come and pay. You don't come, we find ways to find the money that you earn if you earn any money. You don't have any money, we'll find your assets and sell them. That is what it means. Now, in terms of the other compliance element then, you will then have the submission of tax forms. Now, this one, first, again, as we're running this relief program, we're encouraging you to file on the portal and, do a self-assessment. Now, if you don't file, what do we do then? We find a way to know how much you earn, etc. If you are an employee, it's straightforward because your employer is withholding tax on your behalf. So we know how much you earn and how much tax was deducted. So we simply put in a return for you. But if you're a business person, we simply do that return for you in terms of doing estimates and make sure that that compliance rate goes up in terms of you paying the amount that is owed.
Shivute remarked that NAMRA's objective is to administer and enforce Namibian tax and custom regulations with consistency, fairness, efficiency and effectiveness, with a focus on the requirements of each taxpayer and trader.
Are you a CMAS member? Did you know that should you need medical treatment, you have access to quality private hospitalization, guaranteed specialist treatment in private hospitals across Namibia with Compliment Gap? Compliment Gap is a complimentary product for CMAS members only, which covers the shortfall between what CMAS pays and private hospitals charge. You and your family have more than 2 million in medical gap cover per year at a very affordable price. That's not all. You also have access to emergency evacuation within Namibia and $10 million international travel cover for those unforeseen events abroad. Take the financial burden off your shoulders. Invest in your family's health. SMS GAP to 999 555 and we'll contact you. Terms and conditions apply.
Dear teachers, we know all the hard work you put in every day to make sure our kids get the best education possible. It's also our goal here at One Africa TV's #LearnOn1. That's why we bring free quality supplementary lessons that are 100% Namibian, compliments of NMH's MyZone. Lessons include early childhood development programs and primary school lessons. These air on One Africa TV every weekday from 9 to 11 a.m. with repeats from 2 to 4 p.m. There's so much to learn with #LearnOn1. Invite learning in.
Time now for Comments Corner, your daily dose of comments from our social media pages. A local farmer from the Zambezi region, Rasbu Mwimba, has ventured into fruit farming to alleviate poverty as well as create employment. Mwimba of Farm Luwawo currently has an orchard with about 200 mango trees and a variety of fruit trees. Cleo notes that these are the kind of people the country needs. Nambahu says he likes the idea but is worried about the water problem. Tough Boy says he is definitely going to buy mango and guava plants to plant at his village house. Wakavenga wants to watch more of such stories. While Lillis says she is very impressed, adding that he should keep it up. That is all from Comments Corner. Be sure to post your comments on our social media pages for broadcast only on Today on One.
This is my favorite gear, because it speaks for me and all my brothers. Nivea Men Black and White Deo. With 5 times Deo action to protect you and your favorite gear from stains. Try Nivea's #1 anti-stain deodorant. Nivea Men, it starts with you.
Oraniemund, established in 1936, from which point onward CDM, now Namdeb Diamond Corporation, provided every service, the schooling, infrastructure and entertainment required for the people of the town. The winds of change is blowing over Oraniemund, which is no longer a closed town.
This ship was commandeered by King Charles III, and he actually sent a knight to Spain to go and fetch some money from investors, because they wanted to go and fetch some spices in India.
When we were kids, the mine delivered milk, bread, and black paper, black plastic bags for your rubbish, and cleaned your garden, did the maintenance of your house. You had furniture already installed in your house.
Time now for the latest in sports with Castro Ulumbu.
Welcome to Sports on One. I'm your host Castro Ulumbu. The Brave Warriors today jetted off to Senegal, where they will face the Lions of Teranga at home in their Group H FIFA Qatar World Cup Africa qualifier game. The Warriors will face Senegal away on the 9th of October and then on 12th of October at the Orlando Stadium in Soweto, South Africa in the return leg. Today on One Sports has more on this story. At a recent training session in neighboring South Africa where the Brave Warriors have set up their camp, forward and vice-captain Peter Shalulile together with veteran keeper Virgil Fries spoke about preparations going into Senegal's clash as well as the mood in camp before jetting off to West Africa for the all-important fixture to advance for the next round of the World Cup qualification.
I believe. Do you believe, my brother?
Yes, indeed, it's possible, brother.
Well, we take one game at a time. You know, we're not under pressure. But as you see, the mood in the camp, the guys are positive. And we are positive and hoping for the best on Saturday. This is what we discussed, you know. If we can get our points from those two games, I guess it's possible. I guess it's really possible. But like I said, man, one game at a time. You know, go there, work our socks off, and then come back with a big draw. It's a different thing, man. International level is something different. You know? I just don't want to come in and put pressure on myself. You know, there's a lot of quality players that can score every day. You know? So even if I don't score, but if someone else scores, we still go to World Cup.
First and foremost, I'm happy to be back in the club, you know, to represent the country. You know, like Peter said, we are fully focused. We are ready to go to Senegal and to fight, because that's what we are here for, to represent our country. And to make sure that we can represent it, you know, by going out and bring out the best, you know, of our qualities that we are having.
Despite still missing out some key players for their clash against the Lions of Teranga, the Brave Warriors gaffer Bobby Samaria is confident with the team he selected.
I think we've intensified our preparations after all the professionals that we brought to Monday. And just going every day in a different game. So, with respect to preparations, I'm quite satisfied. Of course, for us is now to ensure that we go to Senegal with the belief that the positive result is indeed possible. We are one group. We move towards the same direction. You know, football games are not only won on the pitch. You start with your preparations off the pitch, and of course the mental aspect of your players and the technical team is of crucial importance. It's vital. It's vital that you believe. And as Namibians, I think we know it's a huge mountain to climb, but mountains are there to be climbed. And with the belief that we have and the positive vibe in the group, I think it's possible. It's possible.
The Warriors are currently sitting second in Group H with a draw and a victory in the first two games. Senegal sits top of the group with 6 points, Namibia 4 points, whilst Congo sits third with a point, and Togo rounds up Group H with 0 points in 2 games. And that is all we have for you tonight. Join us again next week for Sports on One, and don't forget to follow us on our social media pages.
Thanks, Lord Castro. Time now for the weather forecast.
Time now for the weather forecast. The interior will be partly cloudy and very hot in the north, with a few thunder showers in the extreme north. Elsewhere, sunny and hot to very hot but warm in the Karas region. The coast will be partly cloudy and cool to mild, and wind will be moderate to fresh southwesterly. Now let's have a look at the minimum and maximum temperatures in and around the country.
We have come to the end of this evening's edition of Today on One. From me, Maggie Forciero, and the rest of the team, till next time, it's good night.
International University of Management, a Namibian university dedicated to its people's future, a hub of abundant opportunities.
We are IUM for life. We are IUM.
You can be tempted to become bitter and cynical. You're tempted. You're not there yet. Maar jy het besluit, man, die ding wat ek aangedoen is, gaan my verbitter, ek gaan my verbitter maak. So you feel to give yourself over to those emotions of becoming cynical and you can also be tempted to take revenge. Paulus sê, you have been grafted, julle is ingeënt in Christus. Wat Christus is, moet julle wees. Wat uit hierdie boom uitkom, ek is die ware wynstok, ek is eintlik die bron waaruit julle lewe. Dit moet in julle vrug wees. Julle moet smaak soos ek smaak, sê die Here. Kan ek 'n amen kry? Ek hou niks meer van julle terug nie. Julle is opgegradeer.
But as you get a bit older and you get a bit slower and you get a bit more enjoying life, shall we call it, those dreams faded and my talent started showing with the numbers and my education grew and so it just evolved from there.
Assignment. It's a community project, but it's not a group assignment. And we need to make that distinction. Many times we're like, I want to start a business, and you're assuming your family and your friends. No, they are your clientele. Oh.
Many countries that have passed their first peak of COVID-19 are experiencing a second rise in cases. Is this a second wave of infections, and could even more waves lie ahead? Previous pandemics might give us a clue. The 1918 Spanish flu was the most deadly pandemic in modern history. It killed at least 50 million people. Its second wave was the most deadly by far, killing millions more than the first and third. More recent outbreaks, such as SARS and swine flu, have also had 2 or more waves, so it looks like the COVID-19 pandemic could have several too. The World Health Organization has warned about the dangers of a deadly resurgence. Many countries and places have seen infections accelerate after bringing their first waves under control. These rises aren't necessarily new waves. They could be spikes. Spikes are rapid rises in cases that aren't sustained, whereas waves happen over longer periods and often contain several spikes or peaks. Second waves only take place after a first wave has retreated. Many scientists believe more waves are inevitable and think a worse one could hit during autumn or winter. Some other coronaviruses spread faster when the weather is cold. If this is the case with COVID-19, it would put health systems under huge pressure. Many people are still vulnerable, and immunity to the virus might only last a few months for those who recover. It's also possible that mutations to the virus could lead to new waves. Hundreds of mutations have been found, and some could potentially make the pandemic more severe. One mutation may have already improved the ability of the virus to bind its spike proteins to human cells. This strain of the virus appears to unlock cells more easily and has become dominant around the world. It's unknown how the virus will continue to change, but further mutations could make it even more dangerous and harder to control. A reliable vaccine would help solve many of these problems, but it may take many months or even years to find one. Until then, we all need to make long-term lifestyle changes to protect ourselves from further waves. How are you learning to live in a world with COVID-19?
Hi, welcome to the program. I'm Debula. So let's get on the road with this. Having someone who likes what you like can be great. It gives you something to chat about and share with each other, yeah? But what if you both want to be at the very top of what you're doing and your main rival is your brother? Can you imagine?
Mount Nyiragongo, located in the Democratic Republic of Congo, is one of the most active volcanoes in the world. It's found in the Virunga Mountains and located 6 miles from Goma. So what caused Mount Nyiragongo to erupt?
This is Women in African Music virtual exhibition. It was created by the British-Nigerian documentary photographer Michael Tubes.
Women in African Music exhibition is about celebrating women behind the scene and women performing on the stage.
Prevention is important. Help prevent the spread of illness and keep yourself and others well. Hand washing is one of the most effective ways of preventing the spread of germs. Wash your hands regularly with soap and hot water, scrubbing your hands thoroughly for at least 20 seconds. Hand sanitizers can be used but are not recommended as a substitute for hand washing. Use sanitizers in addition to hand washing or in a situation where soap and water are not available. To avoid spreading germs, limit sharing of personal items such as utensils, cups, and dishes. Your skin acts as a barrier to germs, but your eyes, nose, and mouth are more vulnerable. Wash your hands thoroughly before touching your face, eating, or drinking. Avoid physical contact with others, including handshakes, fist bumps, high fives, hugs, and kisses. Social distancing is deliberately increasing the physical space between people to avoid spreading germs. While regulations may vary by country or area, the best guideline for social distancing is to maintain a distance of 6 feet from others. Germs can travel through the air from one person to another. If you sneeze or cough, do so into a tissue or the inside of your elbow to prevent the spread of germs. Avoid contact with ill individuals and insist they isolate themselves until they have recovered and are symptom-free. Clean and sanitize frequently touched common surfaces and high-traffic areas in your home and workplace several times a day. Share these guidelines with others and help prevent the spread of illness and maintain a healthy environment. An ounce of prevention is worth a ton of cure.
In a corner of southern Africa lies a vast and sparse land, where endless horizons, dramatic scenery, and untouched wilderness abound. (1,500 kilometers of harsh desert coastline, a mosaic of biodiversity, sub-Saharan savanna, acacia bushland, encased by 2 deserts. Home to wildlife and wilderness abundant, yet ever at risk. This is Namibia, home to some of the most noteworthy conservation success stories across the globe. Initiatives forged, manned, and driven by passionate individuals and groups.
People are busy there walking for more than 45 kilometers a day.
Special species and wild locations under constant threat from an increasingly destructive developing world.
One of the world's true survivors.
This is the story of the Namibian wilderness, the stories of the enigmatic wildlife and natural wonders of her realm.
They are not a threat to anyone, if you understand them.
This is the story of those determined to preserve it, and thereby themselves.
Don't think I want to tell my children one day that we had rhinos in Namibia. I want to show them live rhinos.
This is the story of the last defenders.
We have been tracking them for about 7 days, and on the 7th day, we come across the butchers, and there was a shooting. We are not armed. We having a camera and GPS. We are just hiding behind the bushes. If I don't protect this species, who's gonna do that? So is that why I sacrificed my life to go on conserve the rhinos.
Armed out in the field with basically a notebook against poachers that are armed with highly dangerous weapons and more. How is this an equal fight?
I started right on the ground as a tracker, and I worked all the way up to be the CEO now, and I know how hard it is. It's commitment and dedication and the patience that you have for the animal. It's really hard. It's like you had something in your house that you are protecting for so long, and when you go away from home, somebody comes and kills you.
A rare tropical disease, the Zika virus, is spreading rapidly in parts of Latin America and the Caribbean. In March 2015, the Zika virus first surfaced in Brazil and has infected more than 1 million people. The International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, and the Food and Agricultural Organization, FAO, have responded swiftly to the Zika crisis. These UN agencies came together to make available a nuclear technology that controls pests by rendering the males infertile with radiation. This is called the Sterile Insect Technique, or SIT. A group of scientists from around the world gathered in Brazil recently to examine SIT's effectiveness. They have concluded that SIT is an efficient, safe, and environmentally friendly technique to control pests and fight diseases such as Zika. Conceived in the early 1930s, the idea behind SIT is a simple one. It involves bringing the insects into a laboratory, rearing them in large numbers, and sterilizing only the males with ionizing radiation such as gamma or X-rays. For SIT to work, millions of sterile male insects must be released into the wild for several months to outnumber the fertile ones.
What's going to happen is that the sterile males are going to seek out the virgin females, they're going to mate, but there's going to be no offspring. So there's going to be reduced population replacement, and you will see that after a while the target population is going to go down.
At the IAEA's Insect Pest Control Laboratory in Siebersdorf, Austria, entomologists have been developing and improving this technique for over 50 years. It's already been used in around 25 countries, mainly to tackle pests, such as fruit flies and tsetse flies. Experts are now developing techniques for the mass rearing of mosquitoes and transferring them to countries affected by Zika to help them integrate SIT into their pest control programs. Over 100,000 mosquitoes from 3 different species are kept here. Special attention is being given to this one, the Aedes aegypti, which is responsible for spreading the Zika virus.
What we have seen in the past is that Aedes aegypti control with conventional control tools has not been very successful. So we consider this as one additional new tool that could be used to integrate with the conventional methods.
Scientists have created a special environment for the entire life cycle of the mosquito, from the egg to the larvae, to the pupae to the adult. The pests live, feed, and mate in large, specially designed cages.